Hello. So, another week of school is upon us, another week of virtual school. And to get us started for our reading, I have my singing bowl. I had a request from someone. So, as I give it three nice thwacks, as I like to say, close your eyes if you like, settle into a comfortable place, make sure that you're somewhere that you can really pay good attention to the story and where you can be your best learner. So I'll give you a second to get to where you need to be, and let's begin. And now for the story. So, we are on chapter 8 of Saving Winslow. Last week we had learned a little bit about Louie's brother Gus, who's off fighting in the army, and how good he is at sports in the final line from chapter 7. A little bit sad. But Louis did worry. He feared he would never find something he was good at or something he was as passionate about as Gus was about sports. Chapter 8 is titled Gus. After his brother left for the army, Louis wondered how the absence of one person could take so much air out of the house. He kept bumping into empty pockets, spaces that Gus had previously inhabited. The couch with cushions squished, the kitchen counter always dotted with his sandwich makings, bread and mayonnaise and mustard, bologna, peanut butter. The bed across from his, the porch, cluttered with Gus's smelly shoes and sweatshirts. All of these places were now missing signs of Gus. He and his parents hovered over each letter and postcard from Gus. They were hungry for his voice and his news, but he rarely phoned, didn't write often, and his news was not elaborate. Quick pause, we don't know exactly when the story takes place, but we haven't heard any word about email or FaceTime, so that might be a little bit of a clue. Life was okay or not too bad. Once he said it was great, but he did not explain why it was great. Excuse me, tickle. The food was okay or not too bad though, and one time he and his buddies had pizza. It was great. Not the biggest vocabulary, Louis's father observed. At first, Gus had signed his letter simply Gus, and then it was miss you, Gus, but lately each letter closed with the same 3 words. Remember me, Gus. Of course they would remember him, Louis always thought when he saw that signature. What a crazy thing to say. But it made him worry about Gus, and now, when Louis was holding Winslow, coaxing him to drink, wishing him stronger, he hoped that if Gus were sick or injured, someone would watch over him. Chapter 9, What's the Point? One morning, Louis's mother, standing at the top of the cellar stairs, announced visitors. Hey, Louis, we've come to see the sickly donkey. It was Mac, clomping down the stairs, followed by Claudine and Nora. Claudine rushed to Winslow. Aw. Nora stood a few steps back, staring at Winslow. May I touch it? Claudine asked. I could die from its cuteness. Everything about Claudine was soft and elegant. Her voice, her hair, her clothes, even the way she stood was soft and loose. Nora, however, did not appear soft. She looked as if she had crawled out of a shed in dirty jeans and an oversized black coat and rather large black rubber boots. Her hands and feet seemed too big for the rest of her. Nora did not say "aw" when she saw Winslow. She said "ugh." She looked around the basement, at the stone walls and concrete floors, at the buckets and hoses and rakes stacked in one corner, at the narrow cot, at Winslow's pile of hay, and then at Winslow. What you got that thing in here for? You sure it's a donkey? Doesn't look like a donkey. Looks like it's a possum goat. A possum goat? What's that? Louis asked. A thing that looks like a possum married a goat and had a baby that came out like that. Don't mind Nora, Claudine said in her soft, soft voice. That's just the way she talks. Don't mind Claudine, Nora added. That's just the way she talks. Mac lifted Winslow from Louis's arms and studied him. Gaining a little more weight since I first saw him, isn't he? Still pretty spindly. Eyes are better, though, brighter. Maybe he's going to make it. Of course he's going to make it, Louis said, even though he was not so sure from one day to the next. He felt it would be betraying Winslow, though, if he did not believe Winslow could make it. Little things like that, Nora said, doesn't seem half alive to me. He still knew, Louis said. He didn't know why he said that. It sounded dumb to him the minute it came out of his mouth. Some newborns struggle to get going. Oh, I know all about that, Nora said. You do? Sure, our brother. Claudine interrupted her. Oh, shush, Nora. Your jabbering is bothering this poor little dog. He's quivering. I am not jabbering, and I'm not bothering the poor little possum goat. Nora looked Louis in the eye. Our brother was born 2 months early. So was I, Louis said. I was a pitiful, scrawny, struggling thing. Nora touched Louis's arm with one finger. But you made it. Oh. It was surprising, Louis thought, how much one simple sentence could affect your opinion of someone. So, did you guys catch what we learned about Nora and Claudine's brother? Sounds like they had a younger brother who didn't make it through childbirth. Oh. Do you want to hold Winslow? He asked Nora. Nope. What's the point? Claudine nudged her sister. Cut it out, Nora. Don't be mean. I'm not being mean. I don't see the point of holding that thing if it's going to die anyway. Chapter 10. Freeze that scene. Oh, look who came here to join us. Freeze that scene. One day in the middle of summer, a year or two earlier, Louis was walking down the road on his way into town. He stopped near a batch of tall sunflowers blooming beside a white fence. It seemed like a painting to him, those bold golden sunflowers against the white fence, and overhead a pure blue sky with white clouds drifting along. Louis wished he could freeze that scene. Then, as he stood there perfectly still, a bird floated down and landed on the stalk. The bird was a deeper blue than the sky. What shade was that? Instantly the name Indigo Bunting came to his mind. He must have seen a bird by that name in a book, but he couldn't think where or when that might have been. And now the scene appeared even more perfect to him. An indigo bunting atop a golden sunflower beside a white fence beneath a blue sky with drifting white clouds. There's a seesaw response. Possibility, a picture of that scene. He felt supremely happy standing there. On he went into town to buy bread and milk. Before he reached the store, he passed the small park, and on one bench near the walkway lay a disheveled thin man in a tattered army jacket. He appeared to be asleep. One arm was across his chest and the other hung low to the ground. The man was unshaven, his hair long and scraggly, his clothes filthy. Would I want to freeze this scene, Louis wondered? This scene of the unkempt thin man in a tattered army jacket on the brown wooden bench on the green grass near the gray walkway? As Louis moved on, he thought he didn't have a choice. The scene, for whatever reason, was already frozen in his mind. On his way back home, Louis slid a small brown bag next to the bench. In the bag were 2 rolls and candy bar. It was odd, Louis thought now, as he held Winslow trembling in his arms, the smell of milk formula on his face. It was odd that what floated into his mind were both scenes, the indigo bunting atop a golden sunflower beneath a blue sky, and the thin man on the park bench. Winslow's ears brushed against Louis's cheek. This scene, Louis thought, will stay in my mind. Little gray donkey in my arms trying to stay alive. Just looking back, freeze that scene. That's what I thought. That's a lovely title. That, to me, was a really touching chapter about it's not only the beautiful, wonderful things that sometimes stay in your mind, and you can't always control what they are. But I think that chapter 10 would be a great one for a response. Sharon Creech, our author, does such short chapters. We will end with chapter 11, What's a Winslow? One morning, when the snow lay deep and white on the ground and the sun shone overhead, Louis wrapped Winslow in a blanket and took him outside, settling on the front porch. Winslow became alert, turning his small head this way and that, his eyes blinking against the bright sun. He put his narrow face up to Louis' and nibbled at his scarf. "Bleh," he muttered, "bleh." It made Louis laugh. It was the first time the donkey had managed that sound. Up until then, his whimpers had always sounded like bleh, bleh. Do you think you're a lamb, Winslow? Are you going to baa like one? You're supposed to say, hee-haw. Winslow chomped on Louis' scarf, pulling strands loose. Louis was rubbing his face against Winslow's when someone said, "Hey!" Nora was standing on the sidewalk in her black, large, thick coat and her clunky black boots. On her head was a bright yellow knitted cap pulled low over her ears. Nora had big black eyes and black hair that poked out beneath the hat at peculiar angles. She looked rather like a bumblebee, Louis thought. "What are you doing with that thing?" Nora asked. "That thing? You mean Winslow? What's a Winslow?" "That's his name, Winslow. He's a donkey, and his name is Winslow." "The one that's going to die?" "He's not going to die." "Don't be so sure." Nora took a couple of steps towards the porch, tentative steps, as if she expected something to jump out at her or scold her or send her away. "You want to hold him?" "Nah, why would I want to do that?" "'Cause he's really soft." "Nah." "Bleh, bleh." "Oh," Nora said, it makes a noise." She'd smiled automatically, but then caught herself and removed her smile. Winslow raised his nose in the air, smelling the air around his visitor. Within the blanket, his legs pedaled. "He's squiggling," Nora observed. "I think he wants to get down on the ground, but I don't know, it might be too cold for him." Nora was now standing at the bottom of the porch steps. "You could try it, maybe. You could set him down on the shovel part and see what happens, maybe, if you want or not." Louis unwrapped the blanket and set spindly Winslow down. He wobbled his long legs, bending this way and that until he managed to stand upright. Winslow turned toward Nora and took 2 steps, stopped, tottered, and then stumbled the rest of the way. He leaned against her, nudging her boots until Nora leaned down and patted Winslow's head. "I think he likes you," Louis said. Nah, she patted Winslow again. "You think? Nah. Donkeys just do that, I bet, stumble at anybody." "Maybe." "Well, I gotta go. Here, you better wrap him up again." "You know what I bet?" "What?" "I bet you could let him run around inside of the house. I mean, like upstairs instead of the basement, if you put diapers on him." Louis winced. "Diapers?" "Yeah, I heard about some lady who did that with a lamb, so it doesn't stink up your house and make a mess." "Diapers?" "Yeah, diapers. I gotta go." Louis watched her leave in her big black coat and boots and that bright yellow hat. So I will see you next week for Chapter 12 of Saving Winslow. Thanks!